A new report has been released which x-rays the policies and taxes in Nigeria's sugar and sweetened beverages segment of the country's, of that particular sector. The report dimensions the issues around consumers' health and how effective the new tax regime would impact the beverage industry. And joining us to discuss, we have Dr. Ogho Okiti, who's an economist and the CEO at the Think Business Africa. Good evening, Doctor. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to have it. Can you, I guess, raise the curtain on what the sugar and sweetened beverages tax regime, means as far as Nigeria is concerned?
Okay, thank you so very much. The sugar sweetened beverage tax was actually one of the items introduced in the finance bill at the end of 2021. So he actually came into effect in the fiscal year of 2022. And that finance bill actually said each liter of a sugar sweetened beverage will be charged 10 naira per liter. So that is a tax of 10 naira per liter over the beverage. Yes, so that's where the law is.
Okay.
But there was a new report released just 2 months ago by Cappa, that's the Corporate Accountability and Public Participation, Public Accountability, Cappa. And they said that tax should be raised to 130 naira per liter.
Oh, wow.
So after they came up with that report, Think Business Africa now released a rejointed report. We released another report saying that would just literally kill the investment, the growth, and the jobs in the sugar sweetened beverage sector. So that is really where we are, especially because we think that report did not really dimension the exact reason why we have increases in obesity and, of course, in diabetes in Nigeria.
I see. So what are the facts behind sugar tax or sweetened beverages in the country?
Very simple. I mean, Nigeria is not the first country to actually have a sugar tax. All over the world, the purpose of the sugar tax is to reduce the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages. And the notion behind that is that if you reduce the consumption of sugar, then you can reduce the growth of obesity and the growth of diabetes in the country. Yes.
Okay.
That's the whole idea.
What's your stance on the health arguments behind
the health arguments are very, very logical. I mean, they are just logical. Nobody will vote for an increase in diabetes and obesity because these are very, very awful diseases. But what we are saying is that the contribution of SSB, there is it's not as narrow as, if you just consume SSB, then you have diabetes and obesity. For instance, in the Cappa report, the data that they use for their BMI, that's the body mass index, data that they used was aggregation of BMI survey from 1990 to 2017, and that report was released in 2021. It says that women are more obese than men. However, in the consumption pattern survey that Cappa itself did just last year, reported in their report of February this year, that report says that men consume SSB than women. So there's already a discrepancy there. So the second point that we made in relation to the data was that the aggregation of the BMI data that they used were static data. So you were picking different sets of people for all the different BMI data. What would have been helpful is that you look out for like 2,000, 3,000 people and watch those people over the same data set over a period of time, looking at their consumption of sugar sweetened beverage, and of course looking at the growth of their BMI. So yes, there is sugar sweetened beverage obviously contribute to BMI. However, it is not the only contributor, and we need more research to be able to actually isolate that, and that's the purpose of our own report.
Okay, so as far as the sector is concerned, so do you think that higher taxes should be imposed, or what are the needs of the sector as we look at things right now?
It's not necessarily about the needs of the sector.
Yeah.
It's about, does this increase in taxes solve the problem?
Right.
Yes. So that is our own concern. The increase in taxes will not necessarily solve the problem because the 10 naira per liter, for instance, we have no idea how that has helped in reducing the growth of obesity and diabetes. So Nigerian fiscal policy, I mean, we all know, is already very, very complex. So by just increasing the revenue of government by 729 billion, that does not automatically mean that there will be a reduction in obesity and diabetes. So it is that link that until we understand very well how the increase in taxes can adequately and effectively tackle that growth in obesity and diabetes, we may just end up not solving the problem, but at the same time, affecting the investment, the growth, and the jobs in the industry. So that is just a problem.
And I guess as far as getting more inputs with further reports into the future, is that something that does there need to be more collaboration, I guess, between the medical professionals and also with your think tank and so on and so forth?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, that is exactly the conclusion of the report that we put out. Look, for us to really have an effective solution, then we all have to have an open and transparent stakeholder engagement that look at, I mean, of course, it has to involve SSBs, involve the government, involve the health sector, and say, look, in terms of sugar consumption, you have the SSBs, but you also have some other sedentary lifestyle and other things that contribute to all those obesity. How do you begin to isolate them? What is the role of taxes and what is the role of awareness? What is the role of changes in lifestyle? So you have to bring all those broad issues on the table to be able to say, okay, can we now deal with this effectively? Until we actually do that, we may just literally increase the taxes from the sector without necessarily solving the problem.
And I guess, how do you view the beverage sector now in addition to consumer goods? It looks like it's under a lot of pressure from inflation and then, reduction in disposable income for the average Nigerian. How are you viewing the sector?
That is also the case. I mean, if you actually look at sugar sweetened beverage or the broader beverage industry, you know that is, for most people today, that's perhaps a luxury. I mean, so by the time you squeeze your income on food, on basic things, I mean, the last thing some people will actually think of is actually SSBs or sugar sweetened beverages. So you actually also have to be careful because they're already squeezed in terms of income, they're squeezed in terms of prices, they're squeezed in terms of competition, they're squeezed in terms of substitution. So every dimension of that sector is already squeezed. So if you now take already a squeezed sector, and by the way, according to PwC report of 2023, they already pay 45% of their gross profits in different forms of taxation. So now looking to extract an additional 729 billion annually, which is what the 130 naira per liter would have given them, given the government. I mean, that would just be too ludicrous.
Do you expect a reply from Cappa?
I mean, for me, it's not necessarily a reply. It's not... because, I mean, we actually like what Cappa did because it brought out the awareness. So it's not necessarily a reply. The R is just pointing out the gaps in the Cappa report because the Cappa report simply gives the impression and the notion that increase in SSB taxes is a silver bullet for obesity and diabetes, and that cannot be the case. Because globally, if you look at all the reports globally, there's always a caution in directly linking all SSB to increases in diabetes and obesity. So our invitation to them is, look, these reports can be improved upon, especially looking at, okay, can we get 500 or 1,000 people over a 3 to 5 year period and monitor two things. You monitor their BMI growth and of course you monitor their consumption of SSB. That way you may be actually to think, oh, what is the excess? We don't know what the data, the outcome will be, but we'll be able to design and target an effective solution.
Very, very informative material. Dr. Ogho Okiti of the Think Business think tank, we thank you so much for your time. Very informative discussion. Appreciate it.